All right, I'm gonna test this shit out. I don't got no viewers, but I don't care. I don't normally do this stuff, so. All right, test this shit out. I don't got no viewers, but I don't care. I don't normally do this stuff, so. I already messed it up and getting feedback by playing one back while I'm going. So you should know I'm completely a rookie at this shit. So, like I said, I'm not going to wait for listeners, so I'm just going to go ahead and just start going. We just had an election, a midterm election, a couple of days ago, and I'm just going to assume that I'm talking only to Black folks when I do this show today. Um, we just had an election for the midterms, and really nothing at all has changed for Black people in this midterm election. Even if you would have had that blue wave that you were looking for, nothing at all would have changed for Black people because there is no agenda for Black people. And so I started doing a little thinking, and I realized that this is completely by design. Black people have always historically been politically stupid in America, and that's by design. We've been intentionally miseducated on our political positioning. And what I mean by that is by political positioning, I'm specifically talking about where we are as a power base politically within this country and where we are as far as what our needs and wants are as a people politically in the country. Before we get started, I just want to make myself absolutely clear. I am in no way a um, social justice warrior or activist in any way. I really, 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 really don't care about most of those causes. But I do care about Black people. And that's because I am Black and my kids are Black and my woman's Black. And as far as I know, my family's Black and most of my friends are Black. And I know that when Black gets uh, subjugated, we get subjugated together. So even if we don't like each other or we want to subcategorize ourselves into different groups of, blavity blacks and Black Republicans and Black Trump supporters and Black whatever and Black LGBTQ, we are not looked at nor treated as those separate groups, no matter how hard we try. So if I'm lumped in with you guys, then we are going to have some sort of basis on how we get treated. Now, with that being said, um, I want to get back to our political positioning. Uh, I hear a lot of debates online about whether or not Black people should or should not vote based on what power we are supposed to have. And both sides make some pretty good points, but they take their points to comical extremes. One side, on the pro voting side, says that voting is the ultimate power and that we owe it to our ancestors and we're dishonoring our ancestors by not voting because they died for our right to vote. And those are half truths that get amplified to where they mean absolutely nothing. The other side says that everything is such a sham that our votes literally just get grinded up in a back room and don't even get counted and nothing counts, which is also equally pretty stupid. In reality, they go through a great deal of trouble to suppress our vote because Black people throw off the numbers game. Um, Black people have been tricked as of recent into thinking that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and this is what gave me the desire to even make this recording and recordings afterwards, is that I saw the Candace Owens Blexit issue, and I saw the jumping out of the frying pan into the fire, uh, and I never saw anybody speak on it. Black people don't realize that the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are and have always been the same party. There were political battles in the early stages of the formation of this country as to what direction of a government we were going to go. But those battles have long since been fought and won. And the situation we see now is really more to appease American citizens' idea of the government to make it look like there are opposing forces and there's choice. In reality, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party are the same party. They started off as the same party. They had a war with the Federalists who won because we have the Federal Reserve Bank. And now they serve as all one government, and they work towards the illusion of choice between Republican and Democrat in order to meld all ideas down between two ideas. It's sort of like getting a multiple choice question test. If you get multiple choice question tests, that means the only answers have to lie within those offered choices. They can't give you a question with A, B, C, D as the answer options and not have the answer be within A, B, C, and D. Likewise, they can't give you a choice between Democrat and Republican on all issues without you finding your answer within either party. Now, when it comes to Black people, we're told that our only friend in the fight due to racism is the Democratic Party, and that the Democratic Party, again, due to racism, can't risk being too good to us in public for fear of alienating and upsetting their white vote. In reality, oh, and in addition to this, they need the Black vote in order to focus on expanding their vote with other minority groups and creating a big tent party. In reality, the Black vote's the only vote the Democratic Party has. In reality, the Democratic Party is a revolving door open source code for white folks that live on the outskirts of white society, white feminists, white gays, to be able to utilize that party for gains that they want, but they can rely on a consistent Black power voting base who's voting out of survival. Black people, if they wanted to, could completely sit out of the voting process. But because of the position that we're in now, it's not really going to do any good. We're going to be much better off actively seeking to undermine the process than opting to not be involved in it. Either way we slice it, whether we choose to vote or not vote, you're going to have policies that are going to come down and affect us either negatively or not positively. Either negatively or not positively. But getting back to the point, the Democratic Party doesn't really have any kind of a voter base other than Black people. They're going to try to portray themselves as the party of Blacks, Latinos, gays, feminist women, and immigrants. But in reality, the gays only vote on gay issues. On all issues that don't involve their gayness, they're going to either go back to being Democrat or Republican. You're a rich gay, you want that tax break. Black people and very staunchly Republican, often racist white folks are the only people that vote on value issues that don't concern them. Gays don't vote in favor of immigration. In fact, Latino immigrants do not vote in favor of immigration. Only 14% of Hispanics in America polled believe that there needs to be more immigrants. Everybody else feels either that there's too many or that there's just enough now that they're in. Hispanics come to America to be white. And Democrats appeal to immigration in order to get Hispanic votes. That's it. The Democratic Party and the Republican Party are meant to just always be opposites of one another. And to be honest, the Democratic Party is designed to lose. That's why it always loses. That's why the party fails even when it has the House and the Senate and the presidency. It's designed to lose. It's designed to wrap all of the others and all the colors in one spot and lose. The Republican Party is meant to be the American white party, and it's designed to win. The Republican Party harnesses all the true ideals of America and capitalism and white nationalism. To be honest, the Republican Party doesn't even really believe in white nationalism, but hey, if it gets the votes, then let's do it, because that's the majority of the country now. But they're designed to work together like a prosecutor and a public pretender that wants you to take the deal. The Democrats are there to give you a tiny bit of opposition to make it look like there's some resistance to the program, like there's some compromise. Oftentimes, most Democratic bills that get passed are Republican bills that didn't pass years before, like our healthcare reform. Black people's strength politically relies in two things. One, in the fact that we know the game and we know that we're the Democrats' only bullet in the gun. And two, in the fact that we have so little and we go through so much that there's nothing that a Republican presidency can't really take away or scare us with. Donald Trump's presidency hasn't been kicking our ass like it's been kicking immigrants' asses. Hasn't been kicking our ass like it's been kicking LGBTQ and feminist rights. Black folks are suffering like we're always suffering. The Democratic Party has shown time and time again, and I'm saying this while I'm looking at an article on CNN, that the Democratic Party believes it has a black voter problem with the too woke to vote crowd. And this article goes in and kind of mocks the black debate of whether or not blacks should vote or not, rather than really take it serious as an issue that your voting base, your loyal voting base, is feeling like they got a better shot of just not voting anymore. In this article, at no point does it mention even the idea of the Democrats maybe coming up with specific black policy. The Democratic Party is playing chicken with the black vote. And because we don't have real black leadership, I think they can ride this one out. I'm gonna get back into this article a little bit more in a minute. But I want to get back to this con game. When the Democratic Party has no choice but to be in power, when they have a Democratic president or a Democratic House and Senate, or the wind at their back on a Democratic policy, the only move the party has is to fumble the ball and make heavy compromises with the Republican Party so that the moves go in the right-wing direction anyway, especially for black folks. You would think that Doug Jones, who won the Alabama Senate only because black people voted for him, he won with, I mean, there aren't other races in Alabama for the most part, any major number like that. You win with 98% of the black woman vote, 95% of the black male vote, 24% of the white male vote, and 30% of the white female vote. Black people got you elected. They turned Alabama Senate seat from red to blue. In that election, there was rampant voter suppression on only black voters. They closed every single poll in only the black areas. No, excuse me, check that. I want to get that right. They enforced a new voter ID law and then closed every single licensing spot to get your ID in only the black areas and left only the white ones open. Your sole voting base, the only thing that got you in, even if you did not care or even if you didn't care about or like black people, you would think you would look at this from a job security standpoint if you were Doug Jones. The only reason I got into this office and did this miraculous victory is because black people voted me in. And black people, my only voting base, are facing voter suppression. You would think that would lead to the logical conclusion of, boy, I got to make it less hard for these people to vote. These people who are getting their votes suppressed. They're not doing anything illegal. They're just getting their votes suppressed because they're black and they voted for me. I should make it easier for these people to vote. I should make sure these people's votes are counting. I should check this out. Didn't do a damn thing about that. Doug Jones's move, of course, because he's a white Democrat, is, oh, hey, I got these black people to vote for me. I don't got to worry about those votes. I got to figure out a way to woo these Southern white males and females to vote for me so I can expand my voter base. I got to do things against the black people to convince these white voters who didn't vote for me that I'm one of them. That's white Democrat logic right there. White people who invented the 80-20 rule don't see the logical error in that in the Democratic Party. See, the Democratic Party, and if black people understood this, they would understand these immigration moves. The Democratic Party thinks in the manner of having the black vote, as the Clintons called it, a captured vote that they don't have to follow and don't have to covet. So, and further from that, they almost look at us as a toxic vote that they have to do things against to gain the vote of others. The Democratic Party took a gamble on the tanning of America that it should take a hard left stance on immigration. And it's not even a left-wing stance. That's another trick that the two-party con game plays on people is if it's not one, then it must instantly be the other ideology. And that's not always the case. And this is an example of that. The opposite of heavy-duty conservative, no immigrants in your country, or actually take that back, the opposite of the Republicans' stance on immigration in the country, which is let people in a vetted basis based on skills and need, is not the same as the opposite of that is open borders, complete open borders and no citizenship. Because that's what open borders means. It means there's no such thing as citizenship. They've done a very good job of confusing immigration with asylum. That's why all these people you see on these reports are always people that are refugees, and that's completely different from immigration. Refugees and asylum status is when there's something presently going on in your country that would warrant mass exodus, and we're kind of letting you stay as overflow until the situation boils over or there's a better resolution. That's completely different from people that are coming over here to become citizens permanently. Some of them may want to become citizens permanently, but how we deal with that is different than how we deal with asylum seekers. Getting back to the point, the Democratic Party makes it seem as if the left wing stance in opposition to vetting our immigrants is open borders, and that's the only proper opposite decision. It's ridiculous. And black people, to be completely honest, that voting bloc, that group of people, they haven't always been our friends. The only reason we get lumped in with them is because of white people. White people assume that everybody who's not white is best of friends against white people, which is ridiculous. Latinos, Hispanics come here largely to learn how to be white and not like black people. We're the ones that coddle these oftentimes future George Zimmermans, just to be honest with you. They vote white. The Democratic Party believes that the only way to subdue the black vote and give us what we want, or what we feel like we want, is to throw a couple of black people up in a lot of these offices. But even when you look at that, oftentimes these black elected politicians who we put in, they vote and legislate white as to not alienate their white voters. The issue has never been a black agenda. Nobody formally puts up an agenda for the people. That's the politician's job. If you don't know what your people need by the time you get to office, you're a horrible politician. You won't last long. There was no king of the gays that had to tell Barack Obama that he needed to vote through on gay marriage and don't ask, don't tell. He knew that's what gay people wanted because these politicians poll and study everything about their constituents. They know what would help black people specifically, but they also know that doing things to help black people specifically doesn't go over well, not just with white people. I don't want white people to always get blamed for just not liking black folk, but more so often than not with the other minority groups who get jealous that black people are getting something. Breaking news, every other minority group, immigrants, Hispanics, I don't want to call all Hispanics immigrants or all Hispanics Latino, Arabs, Asians, Africans especially, white women, gay people, everybody, every other quote unquote minority group benefits from black people and our progress that we've done completely by ourselves. Everybody benefits off of us when we come up. I really shouldn't even have to spell any of that out. And we're the only ones that get shot when we do it. We actually take the bullets. Look at Bernie Sanders. What is he, 80, 90 years old? He says he marched with King. He didn't get shot. He's able to run for office. Wouldn't you have rather had a Senator Martin Luther King instead of Bernie Sanders? We are the only people that actually push forward the parts of the country that everybody says they like, all the freedom stuff. There wouldn't be no freedom without no Black Americans. So these members of the loosely affiliated Democratic Party basically just wait around for us to do all the work and push forward agenda that helps them. I'm talking about all those other quote unquote minority groups. There is no scenario on earth where a minority group in America isn't helped by Black people, even Title IX and the NCAA. Nobody comes to college. No, nobody watches college sports to watch women's lacrosse or volleyball or that crap. They come to watch the football, the Black guys, the basketball, the Black guys, except for the Lady Vols. And politics is no different. People use laws and rules for their minority group that were made for freed Black slaves 9 times out of 10. So with that being said, because I don't got to go into too much detail about that, there are people that do that way better than me. Yvette Carnell with Breaking Brown, Antonio Moore with Tone Talks. These people can get way into the nitty gritty about that portion. What I'm about, since we understand that, what I'm about is how we can take advantage of our position and play both sides of a two-headed monster for our own personal gain. I think the problem with trying to get Black people to vote is that we don't ever tell them, I said we and them, like I'm not Black. You can't even talk about Black politics in America without sounding like you're not a Black person and looking at it from a distance because you wonder why we even get involved. But one thing we don't think about is that we have the positioning to mess the whole thing up if we want to. Let me just get into the nitty gritty of this. I think the big problem with Black voters is that we vote too morally. We vote for other people. We've gotten so used to being that rising tide that lifts every other boat that we really think that's our role. And so do they. Look how comfortable they get. When liberals don't win elections, they outright blame Black people for why we didn't get their policies through. What I'm talking about is how we can use both voting and not voting in a strategic way to hold this party and this whole electoral process hostage for what we want to do. I'm talking about playing the political game not like a civic duty done by a citizen, but like a looter in a riot, stealing what we can steal and causing damage where necessary. Complete chaos, taking advantage in complete chaos and grenade smoke, politically speaking, of course. Let me run a couple of facts by people that as citizens, we thought about as citizens, but we never looked at this from the angle of an insurgent. Black people shouldn't give a tinker's damn about Russia influencing the election from a standpoint of whether or not Hillary's a legitimate president. We should only think about that from the aspect of, wow, you can rig the election with a bunch of Facebook ads. And think about it. They said that they covered it up, but let me tell you something about white folk. They didn't cover that shit up. Let me tell you something about white folk. If the money's getting made, they're going to keep on rolling with it. They're not going to fix one single solitary thing because when election season comes, it's too late to fix it. Them same ads were going up before election season. Now, it's not going to work again in that capacity because people know what to look for now. But they were able to, let's just say everything's true. They were able to not rig, but persuade our election with Facebook ads. They were able to get their guy into office with Facebook ads. Now, let's say if that's true and you're Russia, you're not thinking about going just for the office of presidency this time. You're thinking about every single office that's running. You don't think China's looking at that? They didn't pass not one single law to prevent that on any level because we're a capitalist society and we're also lazy and corrupt. And Black people, we need to embrace that. We don't have no problem being corrupt on other levels, but when it comes to dealing with politics, we always try to be tried and true and honest. And we need to really start being some dirty Negroes. Neo-Nazis are able to take over media debates and whole political parties because there's nobody really driving those things. It's really just one government. It's just a sham. People are showing you this right in front of your face. And what we could do is take advantage. And when I take advantage, I mean, get things passed. This is how stupid these people are. We just had a woman. I'm proud of this woman. I need to find out what her name is. I'll find her name by the end of the show. Finesse Donald Trump supporters out of $150,000 simply by posing as a persecuted Black Trump supporter. They didn't ask no questions. They didn't do any research. They got emotional and reactionary based on racism and political affiliations, and she cashed in. Wouldn't you like to have that $150 in your pocket right now? I know I would. What if we did that to the entire country? Over and over and over again. Taking advantage of all their own political loopholes. Ones that they got two options to do. They can either choose to close the loophole and miss out on all their dirty money moving forward, or grudgingly leave it open and see Negroes getting that money too. You want a bigger example? Candace Owens I got to give her a little bit of her credit. She was able to, we're all making fun of her, and I agree. Her stance was sloppy and she's a grifter, but she was able to grift her way to 2 steps away from the White House with Kanye West and create a fake movement. And you know how much funding they probably, Turning Point USA, which is a right-wing political group, you know how much funding they probably gave her and how much she would have gotten if she was able to continue that sham? And people don't see the forest from the trees. They think, oh, she would have sold out and this, that, and the third. I don't care about her political views. Her move would have scared the Democratic Party enough to have to put money into wooing Black people again. Thus, we could have played both parties. You guys really got to watch Ghostbusters, the movie. I can't remember if it's 1 or 2. I believe it's 2, but Bill Murray said a very, very prominent line about how white people feel about politics. He was arguing with a local, political guy for the mayor or whatever. And he goes, hey, I'm a voter. Aren't you supposed to lie to me and kiss my butt? That's what they're supposed to do. And it's your job to know when they're lying to you and to squeeze everything out of them financially and power-wise when they're kissing your butt. You have them by the balls during election season. That's the truth. You got to call the Democratic Party's bluff. Who else are they going to go to? And honestly, I don't mean to get off on a off subject here, but honestly, this is the case with Black people in everything. We're always the only money source for a lot of these different groups, but we let them kind of shit on us. If black women decided that hair weaves weren't the wave no more, and I'm not even going to talk about my opinion on weaves or not weaves, I don't really care. But if black women decided for whatever reason that weaves were not the wave anymore, South Korea would crumble into the South China Sea. That entire economy would tank. World War III would pop off right at North Korea and South Korea. And North and South Korea would start the shit because they wouldn't know what to do. Who else would they sell them bundles to? You're 70% of a multi-billion-dollar industry. Who else would they sell them bundles to? But because you don't know that, you let them punch you in the mouth. They're not even growing that hair. It's not like you can't get that anywhere else. Who else is going to patronize them corny ass stores they open up in the hood? Nobody else. They only get their money from you. They come here and get their money from you to get a leg up in society. You can pull that from under them if you want to. You don't got to protest. You don't got to go out, not a street corner. You don't got to get beat by no cop. You can just chill at home. Sometimes when you don't know something and they know you don't know something, they got a lot of power over you. But the second you know and they know, oh my goodness. Black women could conquer South Korea if they wanted to. I could see the reports on the news channels right now. I'm not going to do no South Korean accent or nothing like that, but you could just see the reports right now. It would be horrible. All because ain't no bundles getting sold. They don't do nothing else. They sell electronics, but imagine if everybody stopped buying, if they just stopped buying electronics from from South Korea right now. That's how devastating it would be. No Samsungs getting sold of anything. Everybody buys Samsungs, all colors. Everybody buys Samsungs. Asians buy Samsungs. Blacks buy Samsungs. White buy Samsungs. Washers, dryers, this and that. Phones, everything. Only one group of people buy them bundles, though. Only one group of people buy them black hair care products. See, we only think of one side of the game. We think, oh, we buy all our stuff from Asians. Okay, who do they sell all their stuff to? So who really has the power? You're in the same position with Korea that the United States is with China and their debt. Yeah, China has all of the US debt, but China also has all the US debt. They're stuck together. One could destroy the other if it wanted to. Only difference is America destroying itself to destroy China economically would really mess itself up. Black women, you just have bad hair day for a couple weeks. You could just, if you stop buying hair care products and hair for 30 days, you would destroy them. And how this relates to the black vote, we can strategically opt to not vote in certain elections or threaten to not vote in certain elections up until the last minute. In key races, whenever we wanted to, and totally throw the Democratic Party off guard. They wouldn't know whether to campaign in an area or avoid it. They wouldn't know whether to put money in one candidate or the other. We could mess up their primaries. Oh, another thing, voter suppression. Until we get actual, tangible voting rights again, what you can do in the meantime is understand that the Republican Party, how they suppress your vote is they go on likely Democratic voters off that data, off of who's a registered voter, one area or another, and they go off of Black people are very nomadic. We tend to kind of bounce from one side of the state to the other, depending on whatever's affordable or wherever we're getting pushed. And Black people could always just register as either independents or Republicans and become completely blind within their voting suppression systems because they're not very sophisticated. That's another thing we have to realize is these people aren't as sophisticated as we think. We tend to get oohed and awed by white folk too much. If we can become completely or even partially invisible within their voting suppression tactics, now we can play a little guerrilla warfare. That means we can also vote in the Republican primaries. We can choose their most weakest, most non-appealing to traditional Republican crowds candidates in key primary races and throw them completely off. We can dictate, excuse me, we can dictate who even gets to be the presidential elect on both sides if we wanted to, if we wanted to play dirty. Now, there are some areas, of course, where we're not going to have any voting clout, Arizona, Utah, Montana, anywhere in the Midwest, you count it out. We're mostly in the Southeast, South and Southeast. That's where you see a lot of black folk. We can really mess up so many local and state elections throughout the Southeast because what these Democrats do care about is job security. A lot of these low-level politicians in these areas, they get in these positions so that they can get approached by lobbyists and take deals. They take these deals, they pass laws that the lobbyists like, they get big bags of money in their car. You're messing up a lot of job security for a lot of people when you're threatening that you can pull the plug on an election at any point in time because you can, with the snap of your finger, make 50% of the black vote disappear. See, you not voting or you voting, this debate is pointless. What the debate should be is, should black people collectively not vote or collectively vote? And the answer is both. Sometimes. Kind of, sort of. Democrats and Republicans tell you on live TV areas they want to grab and why. Because there is, even though they both want to accomplish the same thing and they're two heads to the same monster, they do have differences in how they want to accomplish these same things. Black people could force the Republican Party to put immigration on the table. Make it a vote. Turn around and use that power to get the other minority groups in line, mainly the Latinos, because there is a difference between the ones that are pro-immigration and the ones that aren't. Most Latinos want black people to fight that immigration battle for them. All right, all you DACA guys, cool. Check this out. We can make all you disappear right now because if we go vote with them Republicans, you're gone. Guess who's getting behind some of our bills now? Especially you immigrant Africans. Especially y'all. Because if you guys work with us, you make our numbers look bigger. But if you work with them, then you guys got to go. When you realize that it's just two heads on the same dragon, you realize it's easier to kill them both. We need to change our mentality in how we vote. And we need to look at it in a more tactful way and take and give our vote to whom we choose that passes agendas that we like. And right now, we like what the Republicans are saying about immigration because we know that the Hispanics don't like us. And we know that The math don't add up. But we're not doing that if all these jobs and construction deals and stuff that are going to be open when they go just go to poor white folk. Black folks, we want a cut of this business. We want a cut of any opportunity. We need some protection against gentrification. We need some voting rights enacted. You get out of jail, you can vote now. Yeah. You can't be discriminated from a job. We need to really start reviewing some specifically black stuff. We need to play between both of these parties. Every election cycle, there needs to be a serious question about which way is the black vote. Currently, during the election cycle, the question is, will the black vote show up? And if the black vote shows up, that's good for Democrats. If it doesn't, it's bad for Democrats. The question needs to be, who's the black vote going to show up for? And the answer is always going to be whoever kisses our butt the most. Kissing our butt means giving us what we want. And not just putting people that look like us in office that are going to legislate like you. All these black people who are in office now, we need to have a purge. One thing I loved about the Tea Party, see, black people, we have to take lessons from our enemies. We can't, and I don't even really consider the Tea Party so much our enemies. Even though a lot of them are racist as shit. Yeah. They're our enemies. To hell with all these people. Politically speaking. You got to take lessons from your enemies when they're victorious against your other enemies sometimes. And one thing the Tea Party did that I thought was ingenious is they had a purity party. And what I mean by that is they said, hey, if you're a Republican, but you're voting on these things that we feel don't fit the Republican ideal, then you are a rhino, a Republican in name only. We cannot depend on your vote. We cannot depend on you. So we'd either be better off putting somebody who fits our ideals in office more in the primaries. And even if that person loses in the general election and a Democrat gets in, we'd rather have a Democrat there than a fake Republican. And they lost some seats. They did. They won a lot of seats. But the seats they won were more on their side and they were loyalist than the seats that they lost because they couldn't get them over the hump in the general election. So you're left with more valuable candidates. And you're left with candidates. They would even primary the guys they primaried that won if they didn't stick to the ideals the next election cycle. The Tea Party has a centralized group that keeps its voters on code in that respect. It's not just the people doing it by themselves. They have a set of ideals. They have a list of demands that they expect from you. They have a code of conduct. And if you can't keep up with it, they don't keep you. We have a lot of black people in office all throughout the country where you got 80% black voters, 80% black population, excuse me. So you know that the black vote is powerful, but you got black people in charge that don't do shit because they don't have to do shit because they're going to get reelected anyway because black folks are just used to them. You got black locations where there's nothing but black people. And what they do is they run 4 or 5 black people at the same time so that black people don't even know who to vote for because they just vote on who's the blackest face. They'll throw 4 black guys in and 1 white guy and the white guy will win because niggas don't know what to do because you're voting for the black face. You're putting a paper bag up to the picture to figure out who's going to get your vote because you don't have a set of ideals. So we're going to have a set of ideals. We're going to have a set of demands. And if you don't reach this, you're not getting it. And if you do reach this, even if you're white, you're getting it. You got a little John Brown spirit in you, we'll vote for you. I don't think that's that complicated. I don't think that's that hard for us to do. And it will directly benefit us. This is one thing I'm always trying to convince black people to do. You got to be as bold in your demands as white folks are. That's half the reason you don't even get the job. You don't even apply for shit you're qualified for. You don't demand certain things. They love their job security, and they'll protect their job security the way they promise to protect the American citizen. You put them on the line in that respect, they'll jump. In black locations where you got black people who have been elected for more than, I don't think anybody elected more than 4 terms in any black area should still be there. All these people should be primaried by actual black candidates who adhere to the agenda we're putting out. Wouldn't be that hard to run against them. Oh, and by the way, here's how you triple win. Even if your candidate doesn't make it, when you primary somebody, it costs that location money. The Democratic National Committee and the Republican National Committee send money to certain candidates, and they have allocations of money in their coffers that they send to candidates every year, and in more so in locations. The locations become candidates if the candidates consistently win in those areas. That's why you have senators and congressmen that have been serving for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, especially in the black communities. You'll notice most of the black candidates in those areas, they're usually civil rights era representatives. But getting back to the point, when you have these people in office for 2, 3, 4, 5 terms and ain't nothing changed in their area, heads got to roll. And if you primary these people, and even if you don't win, the DNC looks at that allocation that they normally send that area and go, wow, we really had to spend big time on John Lewis this year. They must be getting tired of him. We need to find somebody new. You've cost them money now. You've gotten their attention now. And you keep primarying people until you either replace them or you scare them in that position. And over time, you will have taken over the whole black congressional black caucus for whatever power they have. See, but now you have a congressional black caucus that'll stand up and say stuff. You have an infection into their system. Will cause disruption. Will threaten to not vote on key votes in Democratic issues without getting certain concessions as a voting bloc. How many members are there of the Congressional Black Caucus? I forget offhand. Forgive me, I'm about to look this up. I know we're live. I never like to write, but let's see. Congressional Black Caucus versus 2018. Hold on. How many members? I don't want to have a bunch of dead air space trying to figure out exactly how many members. I think it's like 10, maybe 15. I don't know. Probably. And ain't that many black people in Congress. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, 16, 24. About that's a solid. Hey man, it's a solid 30, 40 people. 32, 36, 40, 44. 50 people almost. A 50 a 50 vote strong, solid voting bloc that actually stood for something for black folks would be very dangerous in Congress. 2 or 3 senators. Boom, boom, boom. You don't need them to necessarily make up the blackety black representative electoral blackness of blackety stuff law that everybody has to pass, because that would die in the Senate. It wouldn't even make it through Congress. What you do is exactly what white folks did during the healthcare debate. That's how they didn't get it passed right. You had all these different Democrats that started tacking on things for their own groups, just like Republicans do. And you go, hey man, if you can't if you can't throw this bill on for my state, I don't really know if I can be counted on as the key vote. You keep saying I'm the key vote for this big bill that's going to benefit everybody. You got to hold things hostage. Hell, if you had 20 members of the Congressional Black Caucus that were real about theirs, you could take over the rest of the Congressional Black Caucus. And all you have to do is tack on little things here and there for black folks. State by state. You kept all these members on code. Sometimes, it might be South Carolina's turn. Well, we want to make sure we get such and such. Sometimes it might be Alabama's turn. And it might not always be a black person. It could be Doug Jones. Doug Jones would be a nice time for you to advocate, for something over here in Alabama. For black people. If you want these votes. Primary the hell out of the CBC is one of the first things that I would do as a collective black voting bloc. That's your way in instantly. That's your instant way in. Both parties don't really care about the CBC, and they wouldn't even look over and notice that just one by one. So like in those like action movies where they got the guards outside, and then you just go just take a guard and just take him out, and you wearing his gear, and now you're in there. Take over the CBC. Put provisions in already existing bills, slip them in small ways with proper wording that might not even really say black, but we know how to take advantage. And sometimes it will flat out say black. But if they can put sneaky coding into things to make things go from being black to minority, you can put sneaky things in the coding to go from make it be minority to black. That's another problem we have with a lot of black people in politics is they so don't respect the black vote that they throw old civil rights leaders and black political celebrities in there and make them be part of Congress. And they don't even know what John Lewis has no idea what he's doing politically. None. Most of these people don't. Most of these people are just in there taking bribes, like Charlie Ringel was back in the day. Like they're not really looking out for you. You can be sneaky and be a con artist and be confident and be a confidence man and hustle people and do that for the home team. It's what the Irish do. It's what the Italians do. I hear so many times I listen to a lot of black conscious, podcast and YouTube channels, and I hear all the time what the Jewish people do and what the Chinese do and what the Asians do. And I'm like, they have leaders. You think just all Asians are just walking around in some unified code and go, we have to, no, they have leaders that tell them, hey man, I'm sending you these resources. Like I'm doing this. I'm moving this around for you politically. Hey man, we're putting money behind such and such. The reason why Asians don't have to vote is because they know the right politicians to pay from their government. Look at how Latinos are moving. You're starting to see, look at Latinos or Hispanics, whatever you want to call, they have taken over California in the sense politically. They have come in and they got all levels of Hispanic that have taken over California now. They got the white Hispanic in office. They got the Latino, the brown Hispanic on the street. They've taken over. California could secede right now if it wanted to, if it got that real. You notice the Klan was walking through Berkeley, California through a college town. They weren't walking through L.A. like L.A. essay towns. Black folks, there's no excuse for why in areas where we are 80% of the population, and I'm not saying we're 80% of the population in Alabama. I'm talking on the city level at this point. There are cities like East St. Louis where there ain't nothing but Negroes. There are cities like there are cities in Chicago where it's just black people. I have no idea why the hell Rahm Emanuel was in charge of that city. Strike that. I do have an exact idea. That's Chicago was one of those cities where they run 4 black guys and then a white guy, and the white guy wins. Forgot about that. I apologize. But there are cities all over America where it's nothing but black people. It's where they shove all the black people. And the black people still aren't in charge, even if the black faces are in the high places. It's because you got suckers running you. You can primary all these people. You're not voting for anybody if you don't. Hell, you'll elect a white person in there if they adhere to these rules. That'll scare the shit out of the Democratic Party. I'm gonna wrap this one on up. I'm gonna make another one about another aspect of voting, but I'm gonna keep giving black people ideas on how we can go in and hack this system and take complete advantage of these people and get tangible things for ourselves. I'm gonna keep giving actual ideas on little things we can do because it's not that our vote is too small, it's that our vote is misdirected. And I'm going to go into that a little more next episode.